guys? Welcome back. Drip Coach here with Drip and Farm for Poverty, where we don't trust, we verify, and operate with integrity and transparency. Yes, it's me again, and still in the same place. I'm recording these at the same day. But in this video, I brought Samson Mao on before. He's the one that talks about the Omega candles and the Hyperbitcoinization, and also with dollar sat parity. CEO of Gen 3. So definitely a Bitcoin OG, orange pilled, Bitcoin maxi. He's also doing a lot of groundwork, similar to Max Kaiser, of getting countries to adopt Bitcoin and getting it into grassroots campaigns. So not just someone speaking outside of his ass, basically, is what I want to get the point across. In this particular video, he brings up 2 points that I want to address. One is his Max Pain theory of how Bitcoin will kind of take the spotlight. And then the second one is there an alternative if the dollar collapses? Like, can they reset the dollar is actually the question he poses. And that one I don't actually have an answer on, but I'm going to let you guys listen to his clip, and then we'll discuss and see what the thesis is.
They might be that, well, this is my Max Pain theory, that it's the most likely outcome is the max pain for the world, which is that we have hyper-Bitcoinization. We have Omega candles. Bitcoin goes up very rapidly in a very short time, and if people just earn Bitcoin, you don't even get a call from your financial advisor. It's just your paycheck is in Bitcoin, and you're going to get like 15 sats an hour.
Wow, you think there could be a turning point? Not even a turning point. What am I looking at? A flashpoint once we cross a threshold and it just goes crazy.
Monetary collapse is usually very abrupt. If you look at history, like the collapse of the German mark, it's not like 10 years. It's like a year, and you have massive swings in volatility. Well, from the UK, just from the UK perspective, how much of the pensions are underfunded? I think
I haven't looked at the numbers, but they've got a problem with underfunded pensions, just like Social Security in the United States.
Yeah, but there's a lot of underfunded liabilities, and that's got to come to a head very soon. Outside of everything else that's happening with Bitcoin, right? So it feels like we're coming to a head for everything. You have massive demand from all of these treasury companies buying, MicroStrategy. You have ETFs now with like 1.3 million and more coming in. Like there's a massive imbalance of money coming in versus coming out. Like flows are net positive for ETFs. Then if nation states come into the fray, and that hits a point at which debt is no longer able to be sold, like the US treasuries, they're having a hard time selling them now, which is also why they're turning to stable coins. And you have unfunded liabilities coming to due. What happens? Something happens there, something spectacular.
Yeah, my mind is drifting off, like when you said you.
That is a interesting thought experiment, what he said. And then again, we look at history to evaluate how currencies have collapsed before, and like he said, it's kind of abruptly. It's not like a gradual, slow, we're going to move over to this one, and can see it happening in real time. I can at least, or next door neighbor, Venezuela, it happened to them, and yet it wasn't like this, slow kind of thing, and like the German mark. So this is definitely still happening in real time in current countries around the world. The only difference is with the dollar, is where we'll get to the next clip, is that the dollar is so entrenched in other countries that I don't know what happens to those economies. That's an interesting thought experiment. And then how do you get those dollars out? Do those countries then decide like, oh shit, the dollar just collapsed? Because the reason they're on the dollar is because their currency wasn't good enough. It already collapsed multiple times, so they moved to the dollar. For example, I'm here in Ecuador. I paid for my meal here in US dollars. So what happens here if the dollar collapses? And then it's going to be felt even harder here because they don't have anything else. So do they just go straight into Bitcoin? Or wait, I don't even think they're using Bitcoin. So that means they would try to reboot and put something else back in play. Like that is, wow. I just thought about that. That's scary if that actually happens in some of these countries. And again, that's why Bitcoin is the only escape valve. So what Samson's getting at is that it doesn't just kind of overnight, like a long drawn out 15, 20, 30 year process. It's like 1 year. You go from, buying and using dollars for the last 100 years to all of a sudden in 1 year, that shit is worthless. Like the $1 trillion Zimbabwe note when they hit hyperinflation, and that couldn't even buy a bus ticket. So like he mentioned, there's so many things coming to a head where they can't even pay the interest on the debt. They have unfunded liabilities that are due for people like with pension funds, Social Security, and all that. And the only way to pay that is to debase the currency. It's like, you owe this money to these people. They retired. You said that they would get it. You have the option of reneging, of course, but that causes a civil war within a country. For example, if you told all the boomers, like, I'm sorry, we're cutting your Social Security check and taking away your retirements and pension, that won't fly. So you got to keep paying those people. Now, you can screw over the up and coming generation and say, hey, there won't be anything there for you. But the ones that you have that be slaved away and worked for 50, 60 years, and they're drawing that in, if you were to cut that, yeah, that would cripple a society. So you have to pay that. And if you don't have the money to pay it from income, then you got to print it. So you have that. And like you said, you have MicroStrategy and treasury companies that are buying Bitcoin, stockpiling, removing it off the market, hodling it. So there's a supply shock there. Then, like you said, you now also have countries looking at, I think I saw an article, I wish I would have brought it up, but it said by 2030, central banks have stated that they will start holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So if all that comes to a head, yeah, that the writing is on the wall now. This is the gradual, and the gradual actually, I guess, has been on the wall for 15 years with the creation of Bitcoin and the Satoshi white paper and the 2008 financial crisis that was literally written into the code of Bitcoin, into the blocks. So I guess it has been gradual, but it's really hitting, I'd say, since 2020, and maybe really since the Trump campaign. 2025, this year, is when it's really in the forefront radar of the global populace, I would say. It was still much more niche before, but when you have the president of the free world talking about strategic Bitcoin stockpile, launching a meme coin, and creating a digital asset framework, other countries definitely, it's on their radar now. Because like, they're like, what is this that the US is doing? And I showed you that clip from the Russian like CFO, Secretary of Treasury, something like that, where he's like, the US is going to debase their debt using digital dollars or digital assets. So make no mistake, other countries are definitely taking note. And if that's all coming to a head, like Samson now just mentioned, what is the eventual outcome? How much time do you actually have? I don't know. But that leads us to the last clip where it's like, what happens when it comes to a head and it collapses? Can you reset the dollar?
You don't think with Bitcoin as an option, you can reset a sovereign currency?
You can reset a currency if there's no other choice, right? Like, if the people have nothing else to turn to, then you can reboot it. Like Argentina, Taiwan, like lots of countries reset all the time. And here's a new one. But if there is an alternative, like, okay, let's break it down a little bit. So let's say you're an African country and you want to reset. You can do that because dollars are not that accessible to the population. But now you have dollars that are accessible. So like for Nigeria, they tried to push the e-Naira, but no one was adopting it. And I think that's likely because everyone was using stablecoins. So you have the Naira still, but you have that alternative. Now for the US, well, first of all, I don't think you can reset the reserve currency of the world. I think it's too difficult because everyone is using it, right? It's just going to either fail or not fail.
So I think you can reset it, but whether or not you remain the global reserve currency after that is a different story.
Right, but if you have an alternative, it's really hard to reset. If you say we're going to have new US dollar, would people rather have Bitcoin? And if we have all the mechanisms to use Bitcoin as money, like all the wallets and cheap payments, wouldn't they just go into Bitcoin? Like if the news came out one day, we're going to make new US dollars, would people scramble to get into Bitcoin or sit with their dollars and wait for the conversion point of new US dollars?
That is an interesting thought experiment, man. And I honestly think it's like that. The Matrix is such a good representation of all this stuff. I think it was Agent Smith said that there's some people that are so dependent on the system that if you unplug them, they won't survive. So there are some people that are so ingrained that the US, the banking system, is coming to save them and it can do no wrong, that I believe, contrary to Samson's point, that they will sit there and wait for the next new thing. Now, I do believe there is a huge revolution, especially with the younger generation that's waking up going, holy shit, this system is broken. Shit stinks, like Jack Mallers in his podcast. And they won't wait. They are already opting out. So I think you end up with a split system. You end up with a split monetary policy, whatever. It's kind of like some countries right now that have like underground rates for the currency, and then you have the official rate. For example, in Venezuela right now, there's the black market rate for US dollars, and then there's the rate that the governments will give you. Granted, that's one currency, but I could definitely see this hyperbitcoinization and this collapse of the dollar, because that's what this all really depends on, where the dollar collapses, and it's the green light for the US to roll out a CBDC, even though, yes, this regime said they won't, but that's the next step. It's like if the dollar collapses, they're going to definitely go digital. Like, you need to get that through your head. And it's not if, it's when the dollar collapses, they will go to digital. And if they go to digital, then they're definitely going to have learned some of the things that caused the problem before. Inflation, debasement, constant spending. What's the best way to get a capture on that? You make it programmable so you can track everything. Like, that's just a common sense step-by-step of what's going to happen no matter what. And they will wrap it under the guise of social civility, stability, fear-mongering, some kind of global threat. You need this to survive. Who knows how to be packaged, but it's coming. That will be, when the dollar fails, that will be the packaged pill that they give you. Now, to Samson's point, I believe that there will be some people that will take that pill. They will swallow that. And there will be the others that are like, oh, there's another option, I'm going to opt to that. And then the other question is, countries like I'm here and now in Ecuador that use the dollar, what do they do? That piece I don't know, because it's going to hit them harder. And they have already proven that their governments can't manage the fiat currencies that they had, which is why they moved to the global reserve currency. So part of me believes that they will go to Bitcoin first, but the other part of me believes that that could also be a green light for CBDC, especially, oh man, it just came to me, if it's being pushed from like the IMF level. Wow. Interesting. So I don't know. I want to know what you guys think about that. This is an interesting thought experiment, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what happens to the dollar. The answer is stay humble, stack sats. All right, hope that provides some value. If you did, smash that HBO special, help a brother out, like, subscribe, comment down below, and until next time, lift daily and achieve your impossible.